Early struggles and key departures. The Brewers' 2025 story actually started before the season even began, and not in a good way. First, they lost Willie Adams, their star shortstop, who took off for San Francisco after signing a massive 7-year, $182 million deal. That's 32 home runs from last season gone, along with a .462 slugging percentage from a guy who played in 161 games. As if that wasn't bad enough, catcher Gary Sanchez left too. But let's be honest, that didn't sting quite as much as Adams' departure. The rotation got dinged as well. Colin Rea headed to the Cubs and Frankie Montes went to the Mets. But the real heartbreak came when Devin Williams was shipped to the Yankees. The all-star closer had a ridiculous 1.25 ERA and 14 saves in 2024, but Brewers fans will always remember the postseason homer he gave up to Pete Alonso in the wild card that ended their run. But even with that blemish, losing him left a hole the size of Miller Park's roof. So before 2025 even got rolling, Milwaukee's roster looked thinner, weaker, and a whole lot more uncertain on paper. Quiet offseason moves. So after all that, how did the Brewers try to fill those holes? Well, let's just say they weren't shopping in the luxury aisle. Instead of star names, they went with practical pieces. Tyler Alexander, who gave Detroit 107 innings last year, was brought in. Then they picked up Jose Quintana, who tossed 170 innings for the Mets with a steady 3.75 ERA. That's stability, not flash. And that kind of sums up Milwaukee's offseason. They didn't try to buy a quick fix. Rather, they doubled down on what they've been doing for years, and that's trusting the farm system. They let the stars walk, bring in the younger guys, and hope the development pipeline keeps flowing. Sometimes it works beautifully, sometimes it's a gamble that backfires. But this is who the Brewers are. They're a team that builds from within, counts on depth, and somehow stays competitive in the long grind of a season. Fans might roll their eyes at the lack of a big splash, but as long as Milwaukee sneaks into the postseason again, nobody will talk about what they didn't spend in December. The lineup and offense dynamics. Now let's take a look at the bats. The 2025 lineup is pretty much a mix of optimism and question marks. Right at the top, you've got Jackson Chourio leading off. He's just 20 years old, but last year he hit .275, had a .327 on base, and smacked 21 homers. His sprint speed is in the 97th percentile, while his hard hit rate stays at 45%. Simply put, he's the real deal. Now, behind him is William Contreras, the most consistent hitter on the roster. He slashed .275 with a .356 on base last year and posted nearly 5 WAR. Then there's Christian Yelich, the 2018 MVP. He hit .267 with a .362 OBP in 2024, but he's recovering from back surgery and may not be fully ready in April. The infield of Bryce Terang, Joey Ortiz, and Oliver Dunn brings solid gloves and decent contact, but honestly, none of them are scaring pitchers with power. Rhys Hoskins is the wild card. He hit only .214 with negative WAR last year, but he did crush 6 homers this spring. As for Sal Frelick, who's worked on adding muscle after finishing dead last in hard hit rate, and Garrett Mitchell, a speed and power guy who can't seem to stay healthy, they are splitting center field. In short, this offense gets on base, fields well, but outside of Chourio, Yelich, and maybe Hoskins, there isn't much thump. Rotation questions and depth focus. If there's one spot that could make or break Milwaukee's year, it's the rotation. Freddie Peralta is the unquestioned ace. Projections put him at 178 innings, a 3.76 ERA, and 3.1 WAR. That's solid, but what comes after him is a pile of ifs. Brandon Woodruff is coming off back surgery. He's expected for 156 innings with about the same 3.76 ERA. If he's healthy, he's a game changer. Then there's Nestor Cortez, the funky lefty who came over in the Devin Williams deal. He's pegged for 142 innings and a 3.96 ERA. And let's not forget Aaron Savale, who adds more stability with 149 projected innings and a 4.33 ERA. Tobias Myers, who broke out last year, was penciled in for 145 innings with a 4.35 ERA, but he's already on the injury list after a spring training injury. That's a lot of question marks stacked on top of each other. However, the Brewers' answer to their injury woes is depth. They brought in Quintana as insurance, and young arms like Chad Patrick could sneak into the starting lineup. It's not flashy, but if enough of these ifs turn into solid outings, Milwaukee's rotation might just survive the grind. The bullpen reinvented. Now let's talk about the bullpen. With Devin Williams gone, this group had to be rebuilt on the fly. The new closer is Trevor Megill, who brings the heat at 99 miles per hour. He struck out 50 batters last year, and projections have him posting a 3.45 ERA across 64 innings. Behind him is Brian Hudson, who adds a steady lefty arm. He's projected at a 3.51 ERA in 60 innings. As for Abner Uribe, he's lined up for 55 innings with a 3.47 ERA. Jared Koenig rounds it out with 62 innings at a 3.58 ERA. So on paper, it's not bad at all, but let's be honest, no one here replaces the dominance of Williams and his 1.25 ERA. The good news is that the Brewers' bullpen has long had a reputation for turning random relievers into studs. If that magic continues, Milwaukee's late innings won't be a disaster. But if Megill stumbles or Uribe can't stay healthy, the 9th inning could get really interesting. Baseball in Milwaukee and the city's backing. Baseball in Milwaukee isn't just a sport, it's part of the city's heartbeat. And honestly, that's impressive when you remember this is the smallest TV market in all of Major League Baseball. Milwaukee shouldn't be able to compete with cities like New York, Los Angeles, or even Chicago just 90 miles south, but somehow they do, and they do it well. In 2024, the Brewers drew more than 2.6 million fans to American Family Field despite their market size. That's loyalty you can't measure on a spreadsheet, and it's not just fans showing support. In 2023, the Wisconsin State Legislature passed a massive $500 million ballpark funding package to make sure American Family Field stays modern, and the Brewers remain in Milwaukee until at least 2050. For Brewers fans who still remember the sting of losing the Braves back in 1965, that guarantee means everything. The Brewers also give Milwaukee something unique. The Packers own Sundays in the fall, and Giannis and the Bucks run the winter. But in the summer, it's all Brewers. During this time, there's tailgating outside the stadium, kids wearing Choreo jerseys, and whole families making memories inside that retractable roof ballpark. I mean, this team connects generations. So when people ask, does Milwaukee really back its baseball team? The answer is obvious. With fans pouring into the stands and the state literally pouring in $500 million, the Brewers aren't just surviving in a small market, they're thriving. Players to watch in 2025. Now, let's talk about the players driving the Brewers machine. 3 names jump right off the page for 2025. They are Jackson Chourio, Tobias Myers, and Joey Ortiz. Now, Chourio is only 21 years old, but he's already looking like a franchise cornerstone. In 2024, his rookie season, he hit .275 with 21 home runs, 80 RBIs, and 28 stolen bases. That's not just solid, that's elite for someone who was the youngest player in the majors last year. He's got game-changing speed, real pop in the bat, and the kind of energy that makes him a must-watch. The Brewers gave him an 8-year, $82 million contract before he'd even played a game in the majors, and right now it looks like money well spent. If he keeps improving, he could sneak into MVP talks this year. Then there's Tobias Myers, whose story feels like a baseball movie. Written off as a career minor leaguer, Myers came up in 2024 and delivered 143 innings with a 3.00 ERA. That's frontline starter stuff. He did it by pounding the strike zone and leaning on his changeup, which opponents hit under 200 against. A spring training injury slowed him down this year, but if he's healthy come October, he could be the hidden ace Milwaukee needs. And finally, Joey Ortiz. He's the shortstop Milwaukee got back in the Corbin Burnes trade with Baltimore. Defensively, he's already one of the best, as his 11 outs above average ranked near the top of the league in 2024, but the bat has to catch up. Last year, he hit just .248 with 9 homers. If he can push that closer to .270 and add a little more pop, the Brewers look smart. If not, people will always remember the Cy Young winner they gave up. How the season played out. So how did all of that play out in 2025? Honestly, better than anyone expected. Coming into the season, most projection systems had the Brewers pegged at around 81 wins, just barely over .500, maybe fighting for a wildcard spot if everything broke right. Instead, Milwaukee laughed at those numbers. They stormed their way to a 96-65 record, not only winning the NL Central, but also grabbing the top seed in the National League. And it wasn't smoke and mirrors either. This team strung together real stretches of dominance. Twice during the year, they ripped off 10-game winning streaks, the kind of runs that can completely change a season. Their biggest moment came in September when they swept the Angels and officially clinched the division crown. But that sweep wasn't just about locking things up early, it was about showing they could step on the gas when it mattered most. The lineup carried its weight thanks to stars like Chourio and William Contreras. Contreras was an anchor, racking up hits, RBIs, and showing why he's one of the best catchers in the league, both offensively and defensively. On the mound, the Brewers leaned on their depth rather than a superstar ace. With Corbin Burnes gone, guys like Freddie Peralta Peralta, Colin Rea, and Myers, when healthy, filled the void. The bullpen, as always, was a backbone. And here's the thing that really defines Brewers baseball. When injuries hit, new faces stepped up. That's been the team's identity for years. They don't outspend anybody, but they outdevelop and outscout most of them. So, heading into October, by the end of September, Milwaukee had more than just the division title. They had home field advantage throughout the postseason. That's huge. American Family Field is no easy place to play when it's rocking, and the Brewers will have that edge in every series they play. Even better, they got healthy at just the right time. Trevor McGill, their closer, came back from injury in late September. He's got a fastball that touches 99 and quietly locked down 21 saves in 2024 with a sub 3.00 ERA. Adding him back in instantly deepens the bullpen. And then there's DL Hall, the lefty they're grooming as a starter, but who's shown flashes of dominance out of the pen. Having both of them back right before October is perfect timing. The NLDS kicks off October 4th, and Milwaukee will be waiting for the winner of the Wild Card Series. That extra rest means their rotation lines up exactly how they want it, and their relievers are fresh, so on paper everything looks set, but there's a cloud that hangs over everything. Since 2019, the Brewers are just 2-10 in the postseason. That's 2 wins and 10 losses. They've made the playoffs 6 times in that span and never gotten over the hump. That's the reputation they're fighting against. It doesn't matter that they won 96 games. It doesn't matter that they were the NL's top seed either. None of it matters if they flame out in October again. So heading into the playoffs, the Brewers aren't just playing for wins. They're playing to rewrite their recent history. This October is about proving they can finally turn regular season success into something bigger. The road ahead. So what does the road ahead look like for Milwaukee? First, the pitching depth has to keep them in games. They don't have a Cy Young winner anymore, but they've got arms who can keep things close, and that's enough when your bullpen is solid. Second, the relievers have to lock down the late innings. McGill, Hall, and whoever else is called upon have to shut the door. Then there's the offense. It doesn't overwhelm you, but it grinds. They foul off pitches, they work counts, and they put the ball in play. That wears pitchers out and opens the door for someone like Chourio or Christian Yelich to deliver the big blow. Yelich, by the way, bounced back nicely in 2024, hitting .281 with 19 homers and 72 RBIs. If he keeps that up and Chourio keeps ascending, this lineup becomes way more dangerous. Add in Rhys Hoskins for power and Garrett Mitchell for speed, and you've got balance across the board. So that's the Brewers in a nutshell. They're not flashy, they're not packed with $300 million superstars, but they've won 90+ games in back-to-back seasons because of depth, toughness, and resilience. The only question left is the postseason. Can they finally punch through? Because if they finally get hot in October, you could be looking at Milwaukee's first World Series appearance since 1982. And for a fan base that's been waiting more than 4 decades, that would mean everything. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more baseball action, and we'll see you in the next one.